Hey everyone, and welcome to Evidence Mastery. I'm Dr. Massoud Toussi. Today, we are going to unlock one of the most powerful tools in all of health research, the massive, and I mean massive, trove of data from Medicare and Medicaid. Now, this isn't just data. It's really the bedrock of what we call real-world evidence, and you know what? It's completely changing how we understand medicine.
So, you might be asking, why is this data so important? Well, it all starts with a fundamental challenge we face in medicine, a concept we call the real-world evidence gap. It's this space between what we think we know from perfect experiments and what's actually happening to patients, out in the wild, every single day.
Okay, so think of it like this. On one side, you've got your clinical trials. Now, don't get me wrong, they're the gold standard, for sure. But they exist in this perfect little bubble with super carefully selected patients and ideal conditions. Then you've got the real world, and it's messy, it's complex, with diverse patients who are managing multiple health issues over decades. What works in the sterile lab of a trial doesn't always tell us what's going to happen out here.
And that is exactly where real-world data, or RWD as you'll hear it called, comes into play. This is the information we gather from just routine, everyday medical care, things like insurance claims, electronic health records, you name it. It's the essential bridge that connects the ideal world of a clinical trial to the reality of practice.
All right, so when we talk about RWD here in the US, there is one source, just one, that absolutely dwarfs everything else. Let's take a look at the sheer scale of America's biggest health data source. I mean, the numbers here are just staggering. Think about this. Over 155 million Americans are covered by Medicare and Medicaid. That's nearly half the population. I mean, seriously, no other single data source in the country even comes close to this kind of scale.
Okay, but it's not just one big pile of data. The way these programs are set up actually shapes the data we get. And this is really important. So on one hand, you have Medicare. It's a uniform federal insurance program, mostly for folks 65 and up. That gives us really consistent data across the whole country. Then you have Medicaid. It's a federal-state partnership for low-income individuals. And that means the rules, and therefore the data, can look pretty different from one state to the next. For a researcher, understanding that difference is absolutely critical.
So how in the world does a regular doctor's visit, something that happens millions of times a day, turn into a nice, clean data point we can actually analyze? To really get it, we have to trace its origin story. Let's follow that journey from patient to data point.
It really all starts with something you might not expect, the billing cycle. You go get care, and the provider's office documents everything that happened, using all these specific codes for diagnoses and procedures. They submit a claim to get paid, and once that claim gets processed, boom, it becomes a permanent record in a gigantic database.
And this, right here, this brings us to what is maybe the single most important thing you have to understand about this data. It wasn't created for research. A claim, at its heart, is a financial transaction. Every single field, every data point exists because it was needed to process a payment. This one simple fact explains both the incredible power and the built-in limitations we have to deal with.
But, and this is a big but, here's where the magic really happens. Because even though these are, at their core, just billing records, when we start piecing millions and millions of them together, well, we can build an unbelievably detailed patient story.
Seriously, think of it just like a giant puzzle. We have all these different files, and each one is a different piece of a patient's journey. You've got the master file that tells us who the person is. Then you've got these other pieces, one for every hospital stay, another for every doctor visit, and this one is huge, a piece for every single prescription they fill under Part D.
So how do we put the puzzle together? Well, the key, the secret sauce, is a single, unique patient ID. This ID lets us link all these separate puzzle pieces together. We can connect their basic info to their prescriptions, and then we can link that to their doctor visits, and then to their hospitalizations. And before you know it, you've created this amazing longitudinal health record that can follow someone for years, even decades.
Okay, but with great power comes great responsibility, right? A tool this powerful is, of course, not without its challenges. So to use this data the right way, we have to be just as aware of the pitfalls as we are of the power. Let's get real about it. So, here's the fundamental trade-off you're always making. On one hand, the strengths are just undeniable. I mean, a massive sample size, the ability to follow people for years. It's amazing for generalizability. But, and you have to remember this, the limitations are just as real. You're missing that rich clinical detail, like lab results or vital signs. And remember what we said? The diagnoses are there for billing, which isn't always the same as being 100% clinically accurate.
And that leads to some really tricky analytical challenges. One of the biggest ones is something called confounding by indication. This is a classic trap that researchers can fall into. Imagine this. Doctors tend to give a brand new, powerful drug to their absolute sickest patients, right? Well, if you just look at the data without thinking, it might look like the drug is causing bad outcomes. But was it the drug, or was it because the patients were sicker to begin with? It's our job to use advanced statistical methods to try and untangle those effects.
And there's a more modern challenge that's become a really big deal lately: the rise of Medicare Advantage. Right now, about half of all Medicare beneficiaries are in these privately managed plans. And since the data from those plans is often less complete and standardized, if we only look at the traditional Medicare folks, our studies could be biased. That group just isn't representative of all older Americans anymore.
So where does that leave us? It really all boils down to this critical question. We have this data that offers just immense power. I mean, the potential to totally transform our understanding of health is right there. The challenge for all of us, for every researcher, every regulator, every clinician, is making sure we use it with the immense responsibility that it absolutely demands.
Well, that's our look at Medicare and Medicaid claims data. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're digging into these questions and want to go even deeper, be sure to check out the other resources we have here on the Evidence Mastery channel. I've also poured a lot of this knowledge into a comprehensive guide called Real-World Data, Sources and Solutions, which will be available on Amazon in December 2026. Again, I really appreciate your time and your curiosity.